Today I'm going to share with you everything that I am planting in 2023, and I'm also going to share my succession planting plan for 2023. Okay, a couple of things to keep in mind before I show you my list, because I'm going to share my screen with you, is that I am focused probably 95% on farmers markets. So where you sell your flowers is very important in determining where you grow, or I'm sorry, what you grow. So my primary focus is farmers market. I do have some one-offs here and there, and I do have something already planned for next year, and I'll share that with you too. But also my focus is in the heat-loving annuals. Okay, so those tender annuals is where my focus is. It's not on the cool flowers, but you will see a few in here, such as snapdragons, but very few of those, because I am really looking at getting to my farmers market toward the end of June. So that's when my season will start as far as selling. So keep that in mind, because if you are looking at a long season, if you're doing both those cool flowers and your tender annuals, then your succession plan will look a lot different than this one. So, all right, so let me start here. Okay, so as you see on the left-hand column is a list of all the flowers that I'm growing. And on the next to that, I have the weeks. So rather than planting dates, I go by planting weeks. And you can set this on your calendar in your whatever operating system you're using. I just pull up your calendar, and if you go into preferences, into advanced, and you want to just show the week in numbers, and it will automatically add those numbers for you. And you can also do that on your phone as well. I have it set on my phone too. So make sure that you know when your last frost date is, because that's how you're going to calculate when to start your seeds and when to plant out your flowers. Mine is, I believe, it's at the end of April, so I think that is week 17. So week 17, I believe, is my last frost, somewhere in that week. You also want to know when your first frost date is, and mine is mid-October, which I believe is week 42. And once you get that date, then you will count back from that date to determine when your last planting will be. And then, of course, you'll count back from that date to determine when you'll plant your last succession of your flowers. So I mentioned in a previous video that I was really cutting back the flowers that I was growing. Since I sell mostly to farmers market, I just don't need a huge variety of flowers. I just need color in my booth. And so I think I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 different flowers that I'm growing, but I am growing different colors or varieties within that flowers. So let's start with the first one, Azure Autumn. I'm growing the Timeless Mix. I am growing the Timeless Mix because that's what I have. I have a bunch of those seeds left. And I grew the Timeless Mix for 2022, and they were fine. And I grow Azure Autumn for the foliage, not necessarily the little flowers that come out. I love the greenery that the Azure Autumn provides in a bouquet, and it has a very long vase life. So for the Azure Autumn, my first succession of seed will be on the 13th week, okay? And I have it color-coded. So this succession that I start on the 13th week, I will plant out in the 19th week, and I anticipate harvesting in the 26th week. And so as you can see here, the 26th week is the week that I intend to get to the farmer's market. Okay, and then I'm doing a second succession of Azure Autumn 4 weeks later. I'll start those on the 17th week. Intend to plant on the 23rd week and harvest the 30th week. And this is not an exact science. everyone. It is just a guesstimate based on some of the notes that I had kept last year. I do encourage keeping notes. I'm okay at keeping the notes, but I'm hoping that having this plan in place will encourage me to keep better notes, and I can print this out and then make notes directly on here as to how accurate I was on all of these dates. And then I have a C here. This is the only C that you will see, and it's for cuttings. So week 28, I'm actually going to take Azure Autumn cuttings and start those. Then I anticipate planting those cuttings out on the 31st week. So for basil, I'm growing 2 different types of basil. The first one is cinnamon basil. I love cinnamon basil. My customers love cinnamon basil. I'm growing Thai towers. That will be a new one for me. It was recommended by Dave Dowling in a podcast that I listened to, so I thought I would try it. What you don't see here is the lemon basil. I love it. It smells so good. I just had issues with it getting tall enough. So what I think I might do this year is actually start some lemon basil and sell it like in 3-inch pots at the farmer's market. People can buy it and take it home and grow it themselves, because I have a ton of those seeds, and so there's no sense in wasting that. Here where I live, as a side note, something to keep in mind, if you plan to sell anything in pots, you have to have your nursery license. And I actually did get it last year just in case, and it's a very simple, easy process. But I think I didn't renew it because I wasn't sure if I would need it for 2023, but I think I am going to just sell some potted plants. And so I'll have to go through that process again. And here, it costs like $50 to do it. Okay, back to the cinnamon, back to the basil. So my first seed starting will happen for both of those in week 16. I anticipate planting those seeds out on the 20th week, and then also starting another succession the 20th week. On the 24th week, again, we'll start another succession and also plant out that second succession. And then week 26 is when I anticipate being able to harvest that first succession. And I'm doing every 4 weeks on those. And it looks like I've got 4 successions of the basil. The celosia. The Selways are new for me. I grew Chief last year, and the Ruby Parfait is also new for me. So my first succession of those will be started on the 12th week. 3 weeks later, I'm going to do a second succession. Then week 18 will be a third succession, plus I anticipate planting out that first succession. And so every 3 weeks is a celosia succession. So looking at the last harvest of some of these that we've already talked about, the Azure Autumn week 37, that's when I'll begin harvesting that last succession, but I believe it'll carry me through week 40. Same way with basil. We'll start harvesting that week 38. Celosia. I don't really, like I said, the Selways and the Ruby Parfait are new to me. So I'm really just kind of guessing about the harvest time on these. So I'll just keep good records to see how accurate this is. So the Dara, I am doing my first seed starting on week 14. I will plant that one out week 20, and again anticipate harvesting week 26. Then I'm doing a second succession week 18, planting week 24, and harvesting week 30, and then a final succession week 24. A final seed starting week 24, planting week 30, and then harvesting week 36. I love Dara. My customers love Dara, but it can wilt pretty easy. You'll have to forgive me. I have had this creep that's going around and I've been eating cough drops like candy. But I wanted to get this video done for y'all. But the Dara wilts, and this, it gets one more chance in 2023 to see if it can sustain my heat. The next one is the Hibiscus Mahogany Splendor. This is also a new one for me. And it takes, I think it's like, without looking, maybe about 140 days from seed to flower. So I'm really looking at it as an addition to the fall bouquets. I've seen several pictures of it in a fall bouquet, and I think it's just beautiful. So I thought I would try it. So my first seed starting for the Mahogany Splendor is going to be week 13. And I'm only doing 2 successions of it because that's all I've got time for in my growing season. And then a second succession 4 weeks later on week 17. And again, I'm just kind of guessing on the succession of this one. And so this we'll just learn about this flower in 2023. Rudbeckia, I'm doing 1 succession of Rudbeckia, and here's why. I did not intend to grow Rudbeckia this year. I didn't intend to grow Rudbeckia, and I didn't intend to grow yarrow. I don't love those flowers. I know some people love them. We all have those flowers that we love, and then we have flowers that we don't love as much. And Rudbeckia and yarrow are 2 of those flowers for me. However, they will perennialize in my area. I also have some yarrow that is already out there in a bed, and I'm going to dig it up and divide it and plant it in the same bed. I've got the 3 raised beds out there. I don't know if you remember that from my previous videos. And they are 4x12s. And so I think by allowing those 2 flowers to perennialize, I think it'll just make things a little easier on me as far as having just some additional flowers that I can just go out there and cut. Because I'm all about looking at ways to make things more efficient. And I think for me, I'm just learning to work with Mother Nature rather than trying to work against her. So next we have snapdragons. And snapdragons are a cool flower, but I love snapdragons. I just think they're so beautiful, and I really want to grow them. They can be a bit of a challenge for me, getting them to germinate. So the varieties that I'm growing is the Early Sunrise Mix, the Madame Butterfly Cherry Bronze, the Potomac Cherry, and the Potomac Dark Orange. And I am doing successions about every 3 weeks with these. So my first succession seed starting for the snapdragons are going to be in week 11. And then every 3 weeks, I'm going to do a succession of them. And then for this first one on the 11th, I anticipate being able to plant it out on the 16th. And then go way over here and harvest it on the 26th. Now, since this is a cool flower, if you want this flower for your spring flower bouquets, you can start this and plant it out much, much earlier than what I am doing. You can plant it out 6 to 8 weeks before your before your last frost. Sorry, I feel like I'm going downhill as I'm making this video. My coughing is getting worse. But you can plant it out 6 to 8 weeks before your last spring frost, and then you would need to start seeds anywhere. I think I'm anticipating about 5 weeks in the soil blocks, and then I think if you have them in cell trays, you might want to allow up to 8 weeks before you anticipate planting them out. But every 3 weeks, we'll do a succession, and then going over here, my last harvest date of those is actually going to be week 40. Straw flowers. So straw flowers have been a bit of a challenge for me. I grew them for the first time in 2021, and I did them as a cool flower, and they did not survive during those late winter months for me. So I learned that year that they did not survive, and I just didn't plant another succession of them.
And then in 2022, I learned they don't like the Missouri heat. So what I've decided to do is plant it for fall bouquets. I am actually going to start seeds for the straw flower week 23, and I'll do a second succession week 26. And then my final harvest, I'm anticipating to be week 38. So the Sunful Green, I love the Sunful Green. However, my customers at the farmer's market, they were always very curious about it and they asked about it, but then they would never purchase it. But the reason that I'm going to grow it is because I mentioned earlier that while the farmers markets are 95% of where I sell at, I do have one-offs, and so occasionally I will get a request for a bouquet, or even at the farmers market, I do have people that will come. A lot of gentlemen will come, and they don't want to make the bouquet for their significant other, so they'll ask me to make it, and I always put the Sunful Green in there because I think it's so unusual. So I'm really growing that more for my use as opposed to a lot of it for the customer at the farmer's market, because they just don't buy it. I almost think they're confused by it. They don't know what to think. Even after I explain it to them, they still just don't buy it. So I'm starting my first succession of it week 17, and I'm just going to do a small amount every couple of weeks on the Sunful Green. And it's the same way for the sunflowers. I will start them week 17, and then every 2 weeks. In your sunflowers, you could even do every 7 to 10 days, but 2 weeks would be max. If you have a cooler to keep your flowers in, the sunflowers, I can cut them on probably like Tuesday and still get a long vase life out of them when I sell them on Saturday, if I have a cooler, which I do. Well, I have an old refrigerator I just put my flowers in. And then the zinnia. So the zinnias, I'm going to start week 14. And I will succession plant them every 3 weeks. Sorry if you hear crunching, I'm munching on my cough drop. Okay, so the first succession of zinnias, let's see, we'll start those week 14 and then plant out week 18 and then hopefully harvest week 26. And then my last harvest on the zinnias are going to be week 36. And then another thing that I mentioned about a one-off was I had a friend contact me. Her daughter is getting married in July of next year, and she wants to do a flower bar. And so she asked me if I would provide the flowers, and I said sure, because I thought that would be a good way to just dip into that to see if that's something that I'm interested in. I'm going to be adding a one-time planting of a few different flowers. I'm going to do the Cosmos Afternoon White, Feverfew, Hare's Tail Grass, and then the Madame Butterfly Ivory Snapdragon. And you'll notice all of these are obviously the white and cream. They wanted kind of a garden type feel, like an English garden, and they asked for peonies, but of course the shower is the end of July, and obviously we won't have peonies at that time. But I should have dahlias, so I'm hoping my dahlias will be blooming. I thought cafe au laits, so I thought those would be really pretty to add as a replacement for the peonies. It'd still kind of give that feel.
So there you have it. That is my plan for 2023. That's a list of the flowers that I'm growing and how I plan to succession plant them. One flower I did notice that I didn't have on there yet was I am going to plant some of the large poppy pods, and I'm kind of fascinated with those, so I thought I would give my hand at those as well. And yeah, that's it. Hopefully this answered a few questions for you. If you have any more questions, just be sure and comment down below. And also let us know what flowers that are on your not so loved list. I'm curious to know what other people think about that. So, all right, well, that is it for this video. Thank you, and you all have a good day and Happy New Year. Bye.